This is Bleav in Buckeyes. I'm Bryant Browning with All-American cornerback Chimdi Chekwa. We got a very special guest. We got one of our guys here, part of the Bleav Network. It's kind of one of our guys, depending on the week. This week, probably not so
this
much.
Week.
Yeah,
not this week.
Zachary Neel here from Bleav in Oregon, also a beat writer for USA Today, following the Oregon Ducks. How you doing, Zach?
Good, man. I hope I'm doing a lot better in a couple of days, but we'll see. I don't know. This is going to be an interesting week.
You go home and see your kids and family, get back under. I get you, I understand.
No, I'm going to be out partying. We're going to have a late New Year's in Eugene. We're going to be partying on the night of the 1st.
So Zach is joining us. He's actually currently in California, Southern California, getting ready to cover the game for the Oregon Ducks. First off, how was your flight? How are things? How's your team? What's the atmosphere right now?
Things are good. I just got off the plane like an hour before we started recording, so flights were fine. A little bit of delay in San Francisco, as I feel like always happens whenever you go to San Francisco. But things are good, man. I mean, vibes around the team, vibes around fans in Eugene are positive. I think this team feels really good about where they are. They're feeling rested. They're feeling ready. I asked the same question to you. How do you guys feel about the team? How does your team feel, you think?
I think this is, we're on the upward swing, right? There's been highs in the season. There's been lows, and one of the lowest of lows we're only a few weeks removed from one of the lowest of lows. So we're on the up. We're on the up and up, and I think different than Oregon, who's been relatively sitting up high for a long time. That's a scary place to be, honestly. It's a scary place to be, high in the sky, winning all your games, right? Hitting on all your recruits. Everything's been looking good. We've had a different road that we've traveled. We had some challenges that we had to bounce back from. One of them started in Oregon, right? And high note coming off of last week. I think Ohio State really just destroying Tennessee was kind of the medicine for the loss versus that team up north. So I think for Buckeye and Buckeye Nation, we're kind of right where we want to be in terms of still not too far removed from what it feels like to not feel good after a loss, but also confident coming off a big win. So maybe they're coming in a little bit too confident, but they can quickly remind themselves of what already happened. So it allows them to get locked in. And I think the coaches are going to do a great job, or have done a great job, of reminding them of what already happened. So I think this, because it's Oregon, this is a unique situation where they're very confident coming off a win, but they also remember that this team is a team that they're gonna have to go beat. You can't just walk in there and feel like they're gonna be able to get the win.
I'm curious, what do you guys think about this whole rest versus momentum argument? I mean, because I'm on one side of it, like Oregon fans are largely saying, hey, Ducks, between games, it'll be 25 days since Oregon played last against Penn State. It's a long time. And, Oregon fans are in the mode of, that's all that time to prepare. I think that'd be a really big deal if Ohio State had played, 6 days ago, 7 days ago. You have that type of advantage. Ohio State's going to have 12 days off between these games. It's not like they're not rested, So I kind of feel like Ohio State has the advantage there. What do you guys think?
I agree to that. I think, obviously, last time we got to the Oregon play was a Big Ten championship, right? It was a very tough, fought, physical game out of Penn State. And to be frank, I didn't know Penn State could be that physical with you guys. And
they surprised a lot of people.
Right. They played well, and obviously they still came up short. But I would say the advantage of we have the playoff jitters out, right? If we had any jitters about, it being the 12-team playoffs, the first one, we had a opportunity to play at home, right? We're a little bit more comfortable, play well, and I think all that just kind of builds to, once again, to having more of the jitters out. Obviously, you guys haven't played, and I was close to a month. And so, us Big us Ohio State fans, and we're counting on maybe a little bit of rust coming out the gate just due to the fact that once again you haven't played in a while. But I know your coach. I seen a clip of Dan Lanning. He was doing an interview, and also your defensive coordinator, and it was hoarse, right? It was like exhausted hoarse, like they just had got done chewing out the team, and doing what they can to make sure that playoff jitters or rush or time rush is not there. It doesn't show up, but you never know until they blow the whistle and they kick the ball off how that's going to affect the two teams. So Ohio State did play 12 days ago. We seemed to get out that game pretty healthy, I would say. You didn't see too many people nicked up. So I think we have the best unit available regarding Ohio State once it comes to here in the first in a couple of days, and they kind of get that game going.
Yeah, it's the season ends, and Oregon had the extra game with the Big Ten championship, but that season ends, and I don't know, Brian, how you felt about it, but like the bowl games back we just had one game back then, but it still felt like a new season, right? Because you finish the season, then you get all this time off, you have bowl practices, the young guys have full season under their belt. Right, they're better players. Coaches are recruiting, and there's it just feels like a little bit of a different season. For Ohio State, they had the benefit of playing one game and then having a little bit of a rest and then playing another game, and that just gives them a little bit of momentum. It's just they're not going to be as rusty. That's just the reality of it. So it comes down to what the coaches were able to do during that break period or that bowl practice period to keep every player from Oregon engaged and locked in throughout, because it's just it's going to feel like a different season, a different atmosphere, a completely different environment. And one team experienced that a little bit, even though it was at home. They experienced week one of this new season, and they're going into week two, and Oregon is still, this is week one for them. So I think in terms of that, that's the advantage of Ohio State. But honestly, at the end of the day, if someone was to ask you, do you want to play 2 games or you want to play 1, you're going to choose the 1, right? That's just the situation that I do think the team with more time off has to overcome that. And I'm desperately hoping that affects them.
That's why I'm curious to see, what does this game look like in the first quarter when, Oregon may have those jitters? What does it look like in the fourth quarter when Oregon may have that rest advantage, have a little bit fresher legs going into that fourth quarter? That's just where, I'm personally looking at this game to see how big of a factor that is.
I think on the flip side, from Oregon's perspective, they're able to sit back and continuously game plan for Ohio State. Now, Ohio State still had a lot of time, right? 12 days is a ton of time in football.
It's a ton of time. That's still a bye week.
You're right. So, but still, Oregon has been able to game plan and also not show anything else that they might have, ready to go for Ohio State. While Ohio State is coming off a game where everything they did was pretty much successful. So they're going to want to do more, right? There's no mystery that they're going to want to do more of some of what they've already done. To Oregon's benefit, they can add some wrinkles that Ohio State hasn't really seen, especially offensively.
Well, and even more than that, Oregon got the benefit of seeing what not to do because of looking at what Tennessee did against you guys. It's like, okay, I know how not to guard Jeremiah Smith. I know what not to do on defense because that obviously didn't work. So I think that was a big advantage as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to ask a question. So if you got a point you want to get off, go.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that because I don't know if you guys have been on social media today, but as my co-host Jonathan Stewart and I love to do, just get all of the Buckeye fans to hate us for what we say. We came out with an episode last night where we were talking about it feels the sense that we got, or at least from some people on social media, is that Ohio State's feeling a little bit overconfident. And they're feeling really confident. Maybe it's overconfidence. Is there such thing as overconfidence? We were saying that, hey, this may be a good time to get them because they're feeling really good about themselves. They may not be, as hungry as they were after that Michigan game, after that loss. That's kind of our sense. Does that mean anything to you? What do you think about that?
I think I'm gonna say not. I mean, let's be frank. We was, the Michigan game, we was embarrassed, right? We was embarrassed. I mean, it doesn't take much to see. Look at records, look at the team, look at the coaches. We should have won that game, right, on paper. But we played it, we lost. A lot of our guys came back just for, that was one of the reasons why they came back, just to beat the team up north, and they didn't get the job done. So we're talking about a team that was essentially embarrassed, not playing. No, they didn't play not even a decent game, played a horrible game, and came out with a bad loss because of it. So I think after the Tennessee game, it kind of got some confidence back into our guys, which is needed, right? This is football, right? We got to have some confidence if we're going to go out there and play with guys and have the thought that we can win the game and, be competitive. And before the season, most teams, people will argue that Ohio State was the best roster in football, right? And obviously, throughout the season, you get shaken up a little bit. You lose some guys, as we did, especially across our offensive front. But that's just football, right? So now it's time to, like Chim said, to swing it back up. We had a good win. We've been waiting, right, and itching for a chance and opportunity to play you guys again. Obviously, we thought it would be probably in the Big Ten championship, and due to us not getting the job done, we didn't have that opportunity, but we get it now. So I think our team is sitting in a good spot, focusing on the right things so they could go out and, play a good game.
Yeah, I think that's the key difference is that, there's always that risk of being too confident, being a little bit complacent. But it's different now because they felt the highs and the lows throughout the entire season. And one of those lows is playing Oregon at Oregon, right? So, yeah, they need to be confident because this is going to be a heavyweight fight, and you can't go in there with any type of doubt. But at the same time, they have something to pull from, which is their first loss versus Oregon. If it was another team, right, if they were playing Notre Dame or Georgia.
I would have jumped.
Now, you mentioned Jeremiah Smith, but I'm just thinking, if Ohio State wins this game, it is that similar approach to how they attack Tennessee. It's really the Ryan Day offensive approach of utilizing every weapon in the pass game from Jeremiah Smith to the running back. And forcing Oregon to guard everybody and forcing them to make a decision. Like, do they bracket Jeremiah Smith or, go too high to make sure that they can contain him? If they do, then they utilize guys like Travion Henderson, Carnell Tate, etc. in the pass game, who can also get open. And so I'm curious to see if Oregon, because Tennessee didn't do a lot. Tennessee played similar to what they did all season because it was successful. Relied on the defensive linemen to get pressure, play single high safety defenses. They play coverage, but it'll end up you still cover three. You end up with one guy on Jeremiah Smith. Ohio State's different than what they've done most of the season. It was taking matchup. Like, I don't care what they're playing on defense. If they end up with one guy on this kid, we're gonna go at him. And I'm curious to see how Oregon plays that because I think honestly that's going to be the key to Ohio State's success offensively if they really want to go take this game and get out ahead early.
And that's where I think that Oregon might go with what Michigan did a little bit to you guys and say, hey, we dare you to run the ball. I mean, please do it. We're going to try and lock down these receivers. And I love that Jeremiah Smith came out today and earlier said, hey, if you guys play man coverage on me, we're taking shots. Like, I'm telling you right now, we're going to take shots if you play man coverage. So it's like, all right, we'll see. I'm very curious to see what Dan Lanning does, whether it's bracket coverage, too high safeties, just kind of keep someone over the top. But I agree, that is one of the main keys to this game. If you guys can pass the ball, you got a really good shot at winning.
And if they bracket him, so this goes back to, when Marvin Harrison was there. If they bracket Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Day's use of Travion Henderson and Judkins out of the backfield against linebackers, I mean, he's been great in scheming those things up. Obviously, it's on film. It's not going to be a mystery to the Oregon coaches. They know how he's going to try to do, but it's hard to stop. So I'm curious to see, what Oregon's approach is. I think even if they dare them to run, I think once you get into that shot zone, across the 50, past the 40, or in Oregon territory, they still scheme up a shot. And because you have to. I think. I mean, at this
You're
point,
that good, yeah.
yeah. So
Got Jeremiah Smith, do it.
how they handle that is going to be important. I think
he can move inside. He can kind of go wherever you need him to go to find that beneficial matchup. So, with him, with Mateo Uiagalelei on the other side, you got Derek Harmon on the inside who's having a great season as well. If Oregon can muddy up the running lanes with those four, if they can get pressure on the QB with 4 or 5, I think that's huge for them. If they can try and, that's why I kind of want to keep them, keep 6 guys back in coverage, keep 7 guys back in coverage, and make sure that they don't throw the ball everywhere. And if you can at least hold your own up front, I think that's going to be huge.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Ohio State's best approach to counter that defensive line is going to be throwing the ball, short passes, screens, quick passes, chips here, and scheming up in the pass game. I think similar to what they did versus Tennessee. I think there is even if they sit back in coverage, I think they're gonna want to get on those receivers out in space and on the edges to really protect against having to just drop back and deal with that rushing attack. And in the same way, to just run the ball on first and second down and be forced into a third and long puts you back in that same position. So I think they're going to be really aggressive in the pass. I think the key thing is going to be taking care of the football because if you're going to attack in the pass versus coverage or whatever the defense is doing, you're going to be susceptible to potentially turning the ball over. So that's going to be obviously key. Oregon in that first game got some explosive passes. Mm-hmm. Look, personally, I don't anticipate them being able to do it the same way they did it before, but I think that's the formula for them to be successful. Ohio State's approach in that first game, they were playing more coverage, and they still were able to get those explosive. I think the approach is going to be different, where it's going to be a little bit more attack on the attack. How confident or how has Oregon's offensive line been? I know obviously they haven't suffered to actually give up a loss, right? But just in terms of protecting Dylan Gabriel against aggressive defenses.
Yeah, they've been really good. I mean, it was kind of like Ohio State to start. I mean, we had our starting right guard went down before the season started. So those first 2 weeks, I think they gave up 7 sacks in those first 2 weeks alone. They've given up 6 since in like the 10, 11 weeks since. So they're doing really well protecting him right now. I feel like they feel pretty good. They did a good job against Penn State, Amir Abdullah. So you feel good. Like Penn State's a really good defensive line. If you can hold your own against them, you feel pretty good. So
from an Oregon standpoint, and they had success in the run game in the first game. They obviously had some success in the pass game. But when it comes to those runs, that's where I think for Ohio State, that's going to be key, is being able to slow down the run game, being able to handle all of the movement. When I say run game, I'm even talking about the wide receiver screens, all of those things, because all of those things make it really tough on the defense. There's a lot of things moving, linemen pulling, and they really mess with your eyes. And I think the Ohio State defense and their approach is much different than the approach they had the first game. Much more attacking defense. It really clears things up for the defense sooner. They're not reading as much, a few more blitzes, and they just attack. So that what ends up happening is you get some guys in space that have to make open field tackles, etc. So their ability to tackle and their ability to handle all of the movement is going to be key for Ohio State's defense.
Yep.
I wanted to talk a little bit about Jordan Burch, right? He missed the first game against Ohio State, and he's one of the best defensive linemen in the nation, right? And since the Oregon game, started that Oregon game, we was our best 5 unit up front on the offensive line. Obviously, our left tackle goes down in the game. Since then, our starting center, who won the Remington, is also now out for the season as well. So we are kind of a mixed match bunch up front that played well against Tennessee, but that's still essentially, who we are. What's your thoughts on Burch being in this game, coming on here in a couple of days? and what he would bring to the table. As you said, you would think Dan Lanning may get to a point where he challenges Ohio State to run the ball at them compared to, and shut down the pass and kind of give us looks of that.
Yeah, to me, that's where this game is won or lost. I think it's, which defensive line is able to get pressure on the quarterback. And looking at Oregon specifically, I mean, it's tough to say that offensive line is the weak spot for Ohio State because they're still a really good offensive line, and they've done an incredible job kind of switching around pieces and mixing and matches with those injuries. I mean, Donovan Jackson, Josh Fryer, right? Is that what his name is?
Josh Fryer that's our right tackle. So he's been there
right
season.
tackle. So I mean, there's been some guys that have really, really done well, kind of just playing in new positions. So, but then you have the Ducks. You throw in Jordan Birch, who is, I don't think it's even disputed. He's the best player on the team, and he was not there that first time. What's so good about him is that he's very versatile. He's not just going to line up, outside for technique and just run on the edge. I know they're confident against Ohio State. As far as like the explosive plays and the chunk plays, that's where I'm curious to see where those come from, because Evan Stewart was the guy against Ohio State last time. I mean, he, with all due respect, cooked Denzel Burke and really got a lot on him. He's been relatively quiet over the past few weeks. I mean, there was rumors of him being really sick during the Big Ten championship game. I don't think he even had a single target. He was more out there as a decoy. But it's not just Evan Stewart. You got Tez Johnson, who can go for 180 on you in any game. You got so many different weapons on this offense. Yeah, right. So, I'm sure that's going to be a big plan for them to try and get those chunk yardage, because I don't think you're going to win against Ohio State running for 3-4 yards per carry and getting these little checkdowns. You're going to need to get chunk yardage and kind of get the ball down the field.
Yeah, and now I want to ask you a similar question, but kind of I want to, I guess, a little bit more different approach and your response. So obviously, like you stated, the offensive line have been playing really well. After we played you guys, our fan base, and rightfully so, it was, we gave it the big pass play, right, against you guys, right? We gave it the big pass play. It felt like our defense was not very in sync. But another thing that we heard a lot was that our defensive line did not get much pressure and affect Dillon Gabriel in that game. And like you stated, since the second week of the season, guys haven't given much sacks. Big Ten championship, Penn State was not able to really affect Dillon Gabriel as well. I guess I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the way Dillon Gabriel approaches and plays the game. How does that assist in the fact that he doesn't take many hits and doesn't take many sacks, and he's good at basically knowing how to navigate in the pocket, outside the pocket, and be that Heisman finalist for you guys and keep yourself clean when it comes to games, no matter what the defense is throwing at.
Yeah, he's gotten really good at moving within the pocket, but being able to keep his eyes downfield and not just he's not a run-first quarterback. He's not like Marcus Mariota used to be, where he'd feel pressure and kind of get out there and run. I mean, he can run if he needs to. We've seen him have some big run plays, but he's someone who's really good. And I've seen, Will Howard do this some too this year, where he just kind of evades a little bit, takes one step, moves up around the pocket, and still is able to make that throw. So I think that's the biggest thing that we've seen from him so far. But really, it's, Dan Lanning has talked about this a lot. With him, it's just his decision-making that I think has been the number one key for him this year. He's obviously a very veteran quarterback. It's his 6th year in college football. He knows what to do in those situations now. He knows when it's time to take it himself or throw it away, or even take a sack sometimes if he needs to. He's done a really good job of not putting the ball at risk, and I think that's been one of the biggest benefits this year.
Yeah, there's no scenario in this Rose Bowl game of him staying clean and Ohio State winning the game. They got it. Yeah. If they want to beat, and this is the reason why they haven't lost, right? They got to hit them, and they know that. So I think in this game, you're going to see some blitzes. You're going to see a lot of movement from the defensive backs to try to confuse coverages, or at least force him to hesitate a little bit and not be able to make clear decisions. But Penn State tried it as well. There was one play, I think it might have been the first touchdown. They ran, they ran like a zero blitz or something. They had 2 safeties helping out inside, and I think the tight end ran a wheel route, caught the ball, jumped over the defensive back.
Yeah,
it was. It was, first of all, it was a terribly schemed defense, in my opinion.
of course you're going to say that.
But that's the reality. There's going to be similar type pressures where the right decision is a guy in space, and Ohio State's going to have to make an open field tackle. That's going to be their formula for success. If they don't send pressure, I don't see them winning this game, and I think they know that. So I mean, you're going to see a different Ohio State defense from the first time with a lot of pressures, and then we're also going to see Dylan Gabriel's decision-making ability and a lot of those athletes in space versus Ohio State's defense. And at the end of the day, whoever's able to execute the best in that regard is going to end up coming out on top.
And that's one thing.
Question for you. I'm sorry.
Let me add on that real quick.
Okay.
I think the X factor in this game, if you're picking one player for Oregon side at least, it is that tight end Kenyon Sadiq, who's a true sophomore. He played, I think, 11 snaps when Oregon and Ohio State played last time, and had one touch. And they've kind of like slowly broken him out over the past few weeks. And it's like we all knew that he was an incredible athlete, but we're finally getting to see him have a role in this offense. So he's someone I was talking to Jay Stu about yesterday that, like, I think that he's going to have a big role in this game because, Ohio State has not seen him. They don't have tape of them playing against him. So I'm curious to see how they scheme him into this offensive system.
I think he's one of the most important people on that offense.
I think he is.
Just because of his ability to chip, help out, the offensive line, also get out there in space and make those plays like he did against Penn State. Wheel route catch, jump over it. Like he is a key player. And from Penn State's perspective, they ran a zero blitz, and one of the safeties had him in coverage, but he thought he could sit in there and help out because they probably didn't see a lot of him getting out there and doing the same thing. So I think he's going to be a key X factor as well.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you this, Zach. Last time we played you guys, obviously. Some coaching, right? Obviously, coaching with you guys throwing the ball deep took place in the game. And early in the game, one of our guys on the front line got shotgunned by the kickoff, and you guys recovered. I don't know if it was planned or not, but it happened. And then obviously, when the game got critical and crucial at the end, it seemed like Coach Lanning had a plan to put a 12th person on the field to assist in some pass coverage. And your thoughts? Does Dan have more tricks up his sleeve that we should be concerned about when we kick this thing off here?
Always. If the question is, does he have tricks? Yes, always. He is, I've said this with Jace all the time, he is a psychopath, and I mean that is the biggest compliment I can, this dude lives and breathes football to the point where, I truly believe that he has, knowledge of every single rule and how to exploit it and all of that. So, I don't ever know what he's going to do, what it is that he's going to pull out to his advantage, but I feel very confident that there's going to be something that he does, and none of us are going to be expecting it.
Yeah, I give Oregon the edge in game coaching. I give them the edge there. In terms of overall scheme, I give Ohio State coaches the edge. Now I'm also biased. I watch a lot more Ohio State football than I do Oregon football, right? But
what's the vibe in Ohio State right now with Ryan Day? Because obviously after the Michigan game, it was, a lot of fans were saying some stuff, but obviously then the best game of the year against Tennessee happened last time. So what's the current vibe like when it comes to Ryan Day and the fan base?
Winning heals all wounds. I'd say all of them, even deeply rooted Michigan wounds. So the vibe simply is keep winning. I think.
So what happens if he doesn't? What happens if you guys lose this game? Are they calling for his job, or was winning against Tennessee enough to buy him more time? What do you think?
I think in that hold on. So I mean, obviously the AD came out and backed him, and what else is he going to say, right? He don't want the coach running off at the end of the season. But I think he hasn't figured out the Michigan game. I think we could all just agree to that. But other than that, I mean, his record overall is it's pretty good, right? He wins a lot of big games. He wins against teams that we almost, other than Michigan, if we know we should win, right? You start looking at records and rankings and things of that nature, we tend to go out and win those games. So I think he still have done a lot more right than wrong. But in today's world, when the donor right, has a little bit more to say about decisions. Is you almost do not know because we don't have those deep pockets to be making decisions. We kind of have to wait and see how that kind of plays out. But so far, I would say it seems as if, if we drop a lay an egg, we play competitive, but we don't get the job done, Coach Day will still be our guy in the 25 season.
Yeah, I think if it's a competitive game, I think he's still the guy. I also think, those donors with deep pockets that have influence are looking around to say, okay, who could we actually replace him with?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not at a point where go find a guy, right? We're just not at that point. You have to actually know someone who would be interested in the job, who realistically can come and handle being the Ohio State head coach, which is not an easy thing to handle. So in the world of transfer portal, in the world of NIL, right? So even if you were successful before in college football, it does not mean you're going to be successful in this college football. And we have a guy who already has gone through the learning curve of this, college football world. You don't want to blow things up now because the reality is that Ryan Day, if he gets let go, he's going to end up somewhere, right? Yeah. And if it's in college, he's taking guys with him, right?
He's going to succeed there too. I guarantee.
So you got to bring a guy in who's bringing guys with him as well, and that's a lot. So I don't. Now, will some people be calling for his job? It's Ohio State. Yeah. If you lose any game, there's going to be some people calling for him. That's the reality. But I don't think it elevates to the level that even elevated to after that Michigan game.
Yeah. One last question for you, Zach, before we get you out of here. I know you got to eat, get some rest. I know you got some long days ahead of you here. I wanted to talk about the seeding, right? Obviously, Oregon's the number one team, and I think we all could agree that I think the only team that really matters is undefeated. And Ohio State was, a pretty good unit. In your opinion, should the seeding be adjusted after a round of play, or do you like them setting the bracket? Obviously, you got to play some good teams to win the national championship. That doesn't change, but we all could make an argument that it may be an easier path here for Oregon to take, for them to get that route as them being the number one seed in college football.
Yeah, going forward, I think it definitely should be adjusted. I think they should get rid of the automatic buys for conference champions. I think that's probably the biggest and easiest fix going forward. Looking at this season, yes, to start out when you saw that you could be playing either Ohio State or Tennessee, then Texas, and then Georgia to get there, it's like, man, that's a little bit of harder draw than you wanted it to be. But I've made the point saying, like, if we're gonna play, the assumption is you're gonna have to play Ohio State at some point. They're the other best team in the country with Oregon. I think that those two at some point will play for the championship, whether it's this week in the championship, like the quote unquote championship game, or 2 weeks from now in the actual championship game. I think it's kind of beneficial for Oregon to play them now rather than 2 weeks from now because you are as healthy as you've ever been in this game. So if you're gonna have to play them at some point, I don't mind playing them right now. I would love for it to be, this game to be the national championship and have that, that prize at the end. But it's the first year of the playoff. There's still a lot of things to figure out. But I think they will going forward.
Well, hold on. If we adopt Kirk Herbstreit's point of view, right? No matter who wins this game, the loser should be able to get another shot. They should just put them on the side of the bracket. If we want the best, not the most deserving, we want the best team. Word to Kirk Herbstreit, the loser of this game, and we think these are the two top teams in the country, should get another shot. They should get another shot. You should have to beat them twice to knock them out.
I like Kirk Herbstreit a lot too, but I don't know. I'm not really a fan of what he's been saying recently.
Yeah. It's not the most deserving. It's not about who wins this game, how they deserve it. No, we need to get the best in the championship game.
I got you. But look, that's our show for today. We want to say
I got one question for you before we go out too.
We gotta do predictions.
Oh, okay.
Predictions. What's your predictions, Zach? Score prediction.
No pressure.
I think so. I know. You know who I'm going to predict to win.
Rightfully so.
I think it's going under the 55.5, though. I think this is more of a defensive game. I know it was a really high-scoring game last time, 63 points scored. I've got Oregon 28, Ohio State 24.
Okay.
What do you guys
Chim,
have?
what you got? What you got, Chim?
I got a 10-point win, Ohio State. I don't know exactly what the numbers are. I think it's a 10-point win. I think Ohio State gets out early. Oregon a little rusty, and then they find their groove. They get back, and now I say 10 points. It could be 7 or whatever, but I think it's a fight towards the end of Oregon clawing back and Ohio State trying to hold them off, and so. Yeah,
Now that you're not gonna like my pick because my margin is wider than Chim's. But if I ever pick a score, it goes this way. So don't feel bad. It always goes this way. But I got 34 Ohio State, 21 to Oregon.
Damn.
That's just how I roll, man. That's how I look at things. What is that?
Yeah.
I don't know if I can see that.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see that. Rose Bowl 2010. Rose Bowl, Ohio State versus Oregon, 28-17.
That was a good game.
Yeah, it was a good game.
I got one more question before we get out of here, though.
Yep.
What's the general feeling of the fan base going into this game as far as confidence level goes? I mean, Ohio State has been on this level before. They've played for games this big before. What's the general vibe you get from the fan base right now? Because I know what it's like for Oregon. I'm just curious how you guys are feeling.
We have a diverse fan base. We have the super negatives.
Mm-hmm.
The normal individuals who are like based on the temperature of what's happening, and then we have the very, very positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you average it out, I think people are on the up and up in terms of confidence around a 6 or 7 if I went from 1 to 10, because of the last game, because they saw something different than what they saw the previous game on offense, with a ton of confidence in the defense against anybody. And some kind of renewed confidence in the offense based on a more aggressive approach. So I'll say around a 6 or 7 if we were going from a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah, and I'm gonna piggyback off that. Similar, but I don't know how confident people are in our defense just due to the Oregon game, the Michigan game, the games before that. How in the biggest of games, it felt like our defense may have let us down a little bit. If you start talking about their fourth quarter performances, not getting the punt, not getting the ball back to us. So it's a little question mark there, but I got faith in our offense. I got faith in our defense that they have figured it out, they play better. And so our fans, like I said, they could be fickle, but I'm sure they're even when they're fickle, they still travel well. So they're going to do their best they can to fill up that Rose Bowl. Obviously, I don't think it'll go 50-50, but I think it'll be as close as possible. And we'll be loud and do what we can to keep the Ducks at bay regarding fan noise and it weighing a part of the game. So no concerns that our Buckeyes are going to travel well. Even the negative ones still get on the plane or take that drive and share their hearts out.
It's been interesting for Oregon fans because I mean there are those fans on social media that are very loud and boisterous. They're super, we're 13-0. We are to beat them. We're gonna win again. Like very confident. I've felt, and I grew up an Oregon fan. I consider myself an Oregon fan too. Oregon fans have a lot of trauma. I mean, Oregon fans have been to championship games before and lost, and they've been in big games before, and it's always, they've been stopped just short. So I think this is a really big game for the psyche of the Oregon fan base because, you could make the argument that they should have lost that game against Ohio State earlier this year. A lot of things went wrong for them that they overcame. I mean, whether it was blocked kicks, an interception that did not get called or even reviewed on the first drive. So it'll be interesting. I've just noticed among the fans, there's a lot of trauma and a lot of really cautious optimism. Like they think they can do it. They know on paper that they can win this game. They've done it before, but a lot of them are kind of like, yeah, but I've seen them lose that game so many times. So it's I know there's
more
some
trauma. We expect more trauma.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to my point. Yeah, you pull it out,
we're gonna break through. We're gonna break through this week.
Zach had a birthday a couple of days ago, so happy birthday! And I hope
thank you very
enjoyed
much.
Because in a couple of days, that trauma is gonna reign in the year 2025.
We're starting the new year off happy on a good note. New year, new Oregon. We're gonna win championships.
But on serious note, we appreciate you joining. Obviously, it's a big game. You'll be there. We'll be tuning in and giving our thoughts and opinions. And obviously, when it comes down to it, we hope it's a good game. Obviously, we're pulling for our guys as you're pulling for your guys. But we appreciate you, Zach, taking your time to join us. Obviously, once again, follow Zach on Bleav in Oregon. Also, part of the beat writer for USA Today, following the Ducks of the Duck Wire. We appreciate you. But we got to end our show like we always end our shows, Chim.
I'm going to cut out early.
I know.
Oh,
is that a black O? That's a black O, right?
It looks like a black O to me. That look like a black O.
That's round. That's round.
If Oregon wins, I'll sing whatever they got a fight song or something.
Yeah, we got a fight song.
Okay, I'll sing their fight song. But if Ohio State wins, I gotta get you to sing Carmen, Ohio, on the Bleav in Oregon podcast. We got a bet.
Hold on. Yeah, we got a bet. We got a bet.
There we go.
There you go. Hey,
Jay Stu's going to be mad at me because I'm going to rope him into it if we lose. All right, guys. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Man. Talk with you soon.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
Go Bucks.